Welcome to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am your host, Jennifer Sheets. I'm filling in for Matt today, and you can pick up Matt at 3 o'clock as he's going to be also on the drive today filling in. So happy to be here today. It's Juneteenth. It's a celebratory day for everybody. So I hope everyone is enjoying, if they got a day off, a chance to go be with family and, think about everything that's happened and where we're at in society today. But I had to tell you, since the last time I filled in for, oh my gosh, man, I have been saving about 1,000 different things to talk about on the air with this incredible audience that listens to the Matt Murphy Show, because things are crazy. Things are, I knew that it was going to be a little wild going into an election year, but there is so much in news right now that has literally nothing to do with the election. It's the social issue type of thing that's blowing my mind and is really going to start affecting each and every one of us in ways we can't even imagine. And so for those of you that don't know, my background is I host a show on the weekends from 11 to 12 called Master the Workforce. So my background is like workforce development and that kind of thing. And so when it comes to everything that's going to affect us from an election and the politicians and what they're deciding, I have kind of a different take on that, I guess you could say. So I'm happy to be here, excited to be here, and want to say hi to Belle back there, who's got to put up with me for the next 3 hours. I want to share with you all something kind of fun, though. This was new for me. I was invited to go to the Rock the Country tour concert that was in Rome, Georgia. And actually, if anybody out there knows anything about it, if you look it up, it's traveling throughout the summer in big cities across the country. And I didn't know what to expect. And all I had heard was that you go on Friday night and Kid Rock headlines, and then you go on Saturday night, Jason Aldean headlines, and then depending on like where in the country you go watch this concert at, depends on who's playing with them. So in particular, I went to the one in Rome, Georgia. So it's a 2-day concert in the fields, in a farm, like 5 miles outside of Rome, Georgia. And you had to drive like way back in these fields. And I get there, and there's gigantic stages, big rigging, 30,000 people, 6,000 campers. What I didn't realize was this is essentially a Trump rally. It was incredible what I was seeing, because you had these pre-recorded videos that had, Trump talking about like bringing back stuff to the country and everything. And people are just American flags everywhere. And in each of these locations across the country where they're going to have this concert at, there are different people that are supporting either on the Friday night Kid Rock or on Saturday night Jason Aldean. So the artists come from all genres of music. It's not just one. But let me tell you something, to be around the take of the country right now, if the media could not, I guess they were kind of kept away, really, because there's really not much being talked about. It's almost like a hidden little secret. I mean, if they could see what was going on, and if you go on Twitter, you go on TikTok, Instagram, and you look up Rock the Country, you are not going to believe what you're seeing. And I think it's really a testament to kind of what's happening in this country. It's like a grassroots movement of people just not being happy with, what's going on in the world today. And so I just thought it was such a different experience to have and be a part of something like that. And there were people from all walks of life there. And they had a big, gigantic cross, like a cross light bar that was in the middle of where everybody was sitting, and talked about faith and everything. And I just thought, wow, this is such an incredible, experience to see all of this. And again, like I said, it was like 5 miles outside of Rome, Georgia, and the place that we were at, you had to drive back like 2 or 3 miles. So it was the porta potties, and you got there like the old fashioned festivals for any of my, Bonnaroo fans or, old Gen Xers that used to go. And that's how we used to do concerts, was back in the day like that. And so it was like mudding when you went to it. But just to see everybody be at this point right now, it was absolutely fantastic. And so I just wanted to say that and open up with what an incredible experience that is, and that's what's going on in this country right now, is this whole grassroots movement of people wanting to have a voice, getting a voice, and they're ready for it. So with that being said, there are some big topics I want to unpack today, and I wanted to shift a little bit because there's some things I want to talk about that are happening with Elon Musk and what technology is very frightening going on right now that everybody's not really talking about. And I wanted to get into some things happening in the healthcare, which is going to be a hot button topic in the election. That's going to be a really big deal when we do that. And then just real quick, I think we wanted to say this as well, is that I know that Nashville has had its share of festivals, people coming in and whatnot, and business growth and development. But I do want to say that I'm happy to see that that's continuing, and that what we talked about the last time on the show is that people trying to impede that progress and afraid of it isn't happening anymore. So I'm really happy about that. So anyway, back at what we're talking about. I guess it's a soundbite, right, Val? Because I sent it to you about Elon Musk, because this somehow went under the radar. I don't know. I haven't found it much anywhere else, but he was speaking 5 days ago at the shareholders meeting for Tesla, and buried in this 43-minute speech that he gave that people were recording, he begins to talk about humanoid robots that they're already working on with the Optimus program. It almost sounds like Optimus Prime from Transformers. But I wanted you to hear the first little bit of this and the second bit, and then I am hoping you guys will jump in and give me some thoughts on what you're thinking about all this. So this is Elon Musk talking at the shareholders meeting. Okay. So you hear these numbers, and I'm wondering if people are thinking, well, is he thinking way down, years from now? In his speech, he talks about within a year from now, and that they already have technology that they've already started doing this. And so I want you to hear the rest of what he had to say about it. He's like, so yeah. So just casually, it's going to start doing all these tasks. It's going to revolutionize what we're doing and how many we're going to put out. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me, because this technology is here. This is not something we're talking about way in the future. And just to kind of put some perspective on it, it obviously begs a lot of questions of flurries and concerns, because of the fact that, who regulates this? right? So who's the one that says, okay, you're programming it and you know what you're programming into it, but who's controlling the information getting programmed into it? And then does that become the subservient thing that I'm always cautioning, even like on my show I talk about with technology, is that, it's one thing to have technology get better and improve processes and procedures, and it's another thing to have technology make decisions for you, right? Because somebody's actually programmed it. But here's the crazy part. Also, in the Nashville Business Journal, they had an excellent article about 3 or 4 weeks ago that Elon Musk was in Memphis. Memphis has him come in, and they've been kind of courting companies to be like a new tech sector for AI. And so Elon Musk was there and announced that he's building the world's biggest supercomputer in Memphis. And then here you have, like 4 weeks later, he comes out and talks about at their shareholders meeting where they're at with the Optimus program. And I think that all of it is hand in hand. I think that's all combined. And it sounds like that some of this, most of the major technology that Tesla's coming out with is going to come out of Tennessee here. And that, we have to start factoring what is going to be our safeguard. What is going to be the thing that protects us from the people that do cyber breaches, that take over something. And, and then there's this, like, if you go down the rabbit hole, I mean, if someone takes over that role, like, so that facility, let's say in Memphis, even as large as it is, it's just a massive facility. It's only going to employ 190 employees. And anybody knows if you only have like 190 employees that it's employing at that time, that probably most of that is going to be transitional skilled people or people that they bring with them to be able to do that. And when that happens, and how many are actually new jobs that are going to be out there? It's probably not going to be very many of them. So it's just super, super important for us to look at the bigger picture of this. He's talking about, he talks about in the shareholder meeting how Uber, Lyft, and all that won't exist anymore. And as far as in the traditional sense, that it is going to be where it's going to be where the cars are driving autonomously, be safer than the people, and it's going to eliminate those jobs. He talks about the supply chain and where the supply chain is going to be, and is that supply chain going to really be there anymore because there's going to be all these humanoid type robot stuff out there. I have got to hear from the Matt Murphy audience on this, because the more I think about this, I mean, this is potential consequences that could be catastrophic if somebody isn't putting this in check. And, I always say controlled growth, right? Controlled growth is the best thing that you can possibly do, because in that sense, you're actually weighing the pros and cons, and then you're implementing those strategies in as you go. But the rush to technology without everyone else being on board is an issue. Plain and simple. I mean, right now, I know because there's someone I had on my show on the weekend that was talking about how there isn't a company out there right now that can produce a braking system for semi-trucks to stop them via electricity. And, this is what, we're talking about EV, all of that stuff, with, Tesla and Elon Musk. And so it's all connected. And we're making a jumping to ship to find these things out without even doing all of our homework. But I wanted to head out and see what you guys are thinking on the phone. So I'm going to go to Alan in Murfreesboro. And Alan, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Hey, how are you doing, Jennifer?
Oh, great. Thanks for joining and calling today. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about all of this humanoid robot type of thing.
Yeah, well, let me make it real quick. I used to be vice president of one of the largest robotics companies in the world, okay? Also, previous career, I was with the federal government up to my knees in the swamp. And I was high up in the technology end and other things. We did a lot of work with AI back then, neural networks, robotics, all kinds of the front-end things that everybody's concerned and worried about. On the surface, it sounds like this is going to be great. Have all these robots going to do all this, and we're all going to be, receiving all the goods and the value from it. And there's some of that is true. But what people don't take into consideration is there are a lot of nefarious people that sit in their little rooms and they write a lot of the artificial intelligence and neural network coding, and they can generate algorithms that basically can teach themselves so that the algorithm becomes self-teaching. It does not require a person to actually keep feeding it information. At a certain point, they can then direct it to go whatever direction they want to go. Also, the neural networks and the AIs can think on their own. The question always arises is, what are they thinking? Do they see us as some form of a virus?
Right.
Do they see us as a benefit? Do they see us as a helper? Do they see us as an enemy? You're still requiring a human being to be able to control the AI to the point where, to say it bluntly, you could pull the plug on it.
And I'm so glad you're weighing in on this, because I know we're going to have to take a break in a minute, but will you stay on the line, because I have some questions for you, since this is your area expertise, because I would really need people to weigh in, because we're getting ready to go into an election. And when you think about the people we're putting in office that are actually going to have power of creating legislation to protect us all from things getting out of control. So I want to get your take on that. So if I appreciate it if you just hang tight with me a minute, and we'll take a break real quick. And you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Authorities up in Clarksville still dealing with a possible explosive device up there. Avalon Street between Fort Campbell Boulevard and Sevier Street still shut down, so try to stay clear there if you can. Also, a manhunt underway in the Midwest for a man who's been accused of killing multiple people. We'll have those stories at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 12:26 here, and you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show. I'm filling in for Matt today. He will be on the drive at 3 o'clock today. I'm Jennifer Sheets, your host, and we are talking about the comments that were made by Elon Musk at the Tesla shareholders meeting about 5 days ago, referring to the robotic humanoids that they are building and they're in the middle of building, and that they have the Optimus program that they have installed or are working on or whatever, that's going to create humanoid robots 2 to 1. And within the next year is what he's predicting. Whether or not that actually happens, I don't know, but that's what he's saying. And on the line, I have Alan from Murfreesboro, who actually has worked in robotics and coding and sharing some of his thoughts. So I appreciate Alan hanging on the line. Are you still there, Alan?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a quick question because I know we're getting close to the bottom of the hour, and then we'll have to go to news with Jay Harper. But I wanted to get your take on something. Do you think that with what you know in this industry, that there should be task force already in place, and that people that we're electing in this election coming in November should have some knowledge about this and be able to regulate this part of the industry? Or do you think there is no regulating it and it's just a rogue thing and this is the way it's going to be?
Well, I'm always hesitant to have the government do anything. Okay?
True.
Like I said earlier, I was in that swamp up to my knees, so expecting the government to come along and do something that's going to be really super beneficial in this, I have my doubts.
Sure.
Now, again, they can put any regulation they want in place, but people that are, I'm not saying all those people, but some that are generating the AI algorithms and doing a lot of this, if they're nefarious and they're really looking for a way to move the game up several rungs on the ladder, the government's not going to be able to stop them.
It's like the new form of terrorism.
It's just not going to stop them. Now, I do believe that the two presidential candidates need to be fully aware of this. I think possibly they ought to have a member of their cabinet that is, and I don't like the word czar, but an advisor of high scientific authority that can speak on these things and look into them and be an advisor to the president. And actually, I think possibly Congress should be involved with some subcommittee to look into these things and see where we're really truly at this stage.
I appreciate that.
Keep in mind, Jennifer, I don't want people to be worried about the phrase or looking at something and saying that is a robot. It's not the robot that you need to be concerned about. It's the person that writes the algorithm for the robot.
And you know what?
And what are they writing?
You're right. You're saying it perfectly, Alan. This is what I've been preaching about for a long time, and I know I want to thank you for the call, Alan. Thank you for hanging on through the break.
No
I know it's the bottom of the hour. We got to take another break, go to news with Jay Harper, but I just kind of wrapping that around to kind of segue into the next segment. This is something we all should be caring about. We should be looking at our politicians about, and I think this is on the top of that list of like the top 3 to 5 things that we're judging candidates on and where they stand in. But right now, we're going to go to the news to Jay Harper, bottom of the hour, and you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It is 12:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got some clouds. We dropped a few degrees. It's 83 degrees. A complete forecast coming up in just a couple of minutes. News 2 still reporting that authorities are investigating a possible explosive device that was found inside of a vehicle that was picked up from a Clarksville scrapyard earlier this morning. According to the police there, a 911 call came in about 9 o'clock about a small black bag with what appeared to be a fuse sticking out of it. It was inside a vehicle that the caller had just picked up from the yard. Later, officials announced that Avalon Street had been shut down between Fort Campbell Boulevard and Sevier Street. Community members are asked to try to stay clear of that area until they just kind of figure out what all is going on there. Out in the Midwest, a manhunt underway in Oklahoma and Arkansas for an Alabama man who's accused of killing multiple people. Here's Alex Stone.
Across Oklahoma and Arkansas, police are looking for 50-year-old Stacy Lee Drake. He's from Alabama, but for some reason appears to be killing in Oklahoma. 3 people have been killed in Oklahoma and 2 carjackings. Drake is also wanted on separate robbery, murder, and carjacking warrants from other areas. He was last seen outside of a motel in Morrilton, Arkansas. Police saying Drake is considered armed and extremely dangerous.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
And you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 12:37, and I am filling in for Matt today. This is Jennifer Sheets. I host a show on the weekend called Master the Workforce, and we have been talking about some different types of subjects. The first half hour we were talking about how Elon Musk was talking to his shareholders about the humanoid robots they're building with the Optimus program and where he sees that in a year. And had a gentleman, Alan from Murfreesboro, that called in since he was in robotics and gave his take on that. And so one of the things that before the bottom of the hour, before we went and had news, I had mentioned was that I wanted him to give his take on, do you think that we need to have an oversight committee on that? That's something that both the politicians should be taking in consideration moving into the election. And he definitely agreed with that. And it just led me to think about ranking issues, because one of the things that my parents always taught me when I was growing up was they weren't so much about who the person was that was running for office. They were about their history and what the legislation is that we actually have to live by. And I thought it was always interesting because I think probably one of the, well, aside from typing, now they would call it keyboarding, aside from typing, which was probably the most beneficial class I had in high school for all my Gen Xers out there that I actually have used my whole life. What I guess I'm driving at this time is that one of the things that we look at, when we're talking about all of these things is like kind of where we're at. Like, how do we think things rank in importance to us? And so when I was at one of the classes that we had to be local government, where you learned like what a councilman was and what power they actually had. And I always think about, my son just graduated high school. He just turned 18. He's going to Ohio State. Yes, Ohio State. And and he votes. He's got his voter's registration card. He's going to be able to vote in this election. And I think it's really important that we're not just teaching, our younger generation that it's just about if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, or if it's Biden or if it's Trump. I think it's important that we take it way back and we bring it way back to the beginning, because usually, in most situations, I can name probably a couple in the last, 50 years offhand that we were all like, how did that happen? And that person, I think it was even Obama, he ended up, running for president, but he hadn't ever voted in Congress. So like that, that was just wild. But technically speaking, most people start in that local government capacity to mid-government capacity and work their way up. And these are the people, the lawmakers that are listening to lobbyists. They're drawing up all of the laws that we live by on a daily basis. And I think educating that younger generation on where that starts and what's important is huge. So I want to hear from the Matt Murphy audience. I want to hear from the listeners, because it got me thinking about what are the issues that are important to you. Now, we know immigration's a hot topic. Chris Hand did a fantastic job today talking about it. Dan Mandis always does a fantastic job talking about it. Obviously, Matt Murphy does a fantastic job talking about it. And why I'm saying that is they all kind of similarly say the same things, but they present it in very amazing and unique ways for their audiences and listeners to hear. And I know that this is an absolute hot button issue, but I know that's not the only issue. I did hear a listener that was on the Chris Hand show, and she had just mentioned that her decision, her one and only decision, it wouldn't matter who is running, it was going to be on how they stand on border policy. And I get that, and I understand that. I'm starting to try to get people to think a little bit past November, because what's going to happen when this election is done and over? And it's either one way or the other. So both sides of the aisle, someone's going to be griping, and the country's going to be better or worse for whoever is there. But what do we have control over with on a smaller kind of, I call it a global, like global local scale, that affects us on a daily basis? Like, what are those issues? Is it healthcare? Is it taxes? Is it transportation? Is it business development? Like, what is it? What is it that's important to you that you want to see a politician take a stand on? And I know that for me, healthcare is going to creep up there. I have lots of reasons for that. I have a son, and most people that know me and have heard me talk on my show, that had cancer 3 times and a bone marrow transplant. And he was diagnosed when he was 3.5. So I've lived in that world, but I also have an aging parent. Like my one parent, my father had passed away a couple years ago, but my mom is at that point of like, okay, she needs help. And I know so many of us out there absolutely have that happen. And that's an issue for us, and it's really important that we start to prioritize what our hot button issues are. So I wanted to see what you guys think. So we're going to go to the phones right now. Hey, welcome into the Matt Murphy Show. This is Jennifer. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hi. You're on the Matt Murphy Show.
Sorry.
This is Jennifer. That's okay. I'd love to hear what you think about this.
Yeah, talking about some of your local issues outside, the big picture of immigration, economy, crime, fentanyl. We know those are affecting us every day. Something I'm really concerned about that's kind of been off the radar here lately is these foreign countries, especially countries that we don't have good relationships, that's coming in our country and buying up land in our local areas, buying up farmland, buying land around our military bases. Those are things I worry about, and I hope Governor Lee will stand with some of the other governors. Like I know Kristi Noem and some of the Montana governors and Wyoming has pushed through legislation where these foreign companies from China or Russia or wherever cannot come and buy local land in our own state or buy local farmland. But I'll get off here and let y'all comment on that. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for weighing in on that. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that was an excellent point. That is why I'm putting this question out there and want to hear from all the audience, because that is exactly what I'm saying. My grandpa had said one time years ago when he was still alive, he said that the next world war was going to happen from within, meaning that we would be taken over from within. Now, I'm not going down the conspiracy theory line. I'm not way off that way, everybody, before I get taken to task with everybody on that. But I understood what he meant. And it's just to the point of the caller that we just had on, is because if you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, pretty soon that complacency is going to be costly. And, if there are entities, governments, companies from even hostile countries to the United States coming around and buying local land up, and like he was pointing out, like around military bases and things like that, that's a huge issue. And that's something that the vote that you make in November, not necessarily your presidential candidates, but the ones that you make that make those decisions that affect you every single day of your life, driving to and from work, going to the grocery store, whatever, those are the people you really need to start paying attention to, because you need to let them know what issues are pressing to you that are going to affect what you do all the time. And, healthcare is one of those too. And I brought that up before the caller came on about it was important to him and concerning to him about people coming and buying land. But the healthcare in this country, okay, I have to say this. I know that there is the argument of affordable healthcare. Okay, no one can argue that better than me when I've had a sick child for many years, when a cancer treatment, like a chemotherapy treatment, is $37,500. But I also can tell you that years ago, so I have my own business, and there was a company, and it was trying to relocate from Canada to Dixon, Tennessee. And they were located in Burlington, which is just outside of Toronto. And when they were coming here, we went to Burlington to kind of court them a little bit and just say, hey, when you open up this facility here, we can help you find these great people in the Middle Tennessee area to staff it for you and make sure that they have a great place to work and you have an excellent workforce type of deal. So we went up there and I was asking them about the national healthcare system, because everybody here says you got to have national healthcare, you got to have you got to have government paid healthcare. And you can take me to task all you want on it, but I'm standing my ground on this one, because they literally, more than one person, many people that worked at this company told that even though their health care is paid for, they drive across the border to Buffalo, New York to get their health care. And the reason is because you're weighted almost like an actuarial scientist would, in an insurance company. So if I get sick, I am on the importance scale. I'm a number. Okay. So whether I get treatment or what kind of treatment I get depends on whether I'm worth them sending for the treatment, because they're paying for it. And there's no incentive for doctors or hospitals or anybody to do research development unless they're doing it on their own, because you're being told what you have to do. And so there's seriously people that say like you just wait to die, and certain groups of aged, I guess you could say, in the older generation, and there's certain ones that they'll run and they'll make sure that you get the best of everything. And so it's actually because money is involved with it, and because they're paying it, they're putting a price on your life as to what happens. Now, I'm going to tell you, when my son relapsed that last time, they were just going to put us in a traditional kind of bone marrow transplant, which 50% result in relapse within the first 90 days. Well, that wasn't an option for us because he had lifelong chemo and lifelong radiation. So we were able to, because of the healthcare system in this country, we had Blue Cross Blue Shield at the time, we were able to do whatever we needed to do to try and find a place that had some state-of-the-art new type of treatments. And yes, was there things that came out of pocket? Yes. But the fact of the matter is we had that choice. So healthcare does become a very big hot button issue as we go into an election. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that the government should pay for everything, because what happens is then you're going to lack in service. There's no, I guess, what do I want to say, like competition to be able to be better at what you're doing and get that business. And so that is a complete issue, because you're never going to have the best care, best service, whatever. But I do think we need affordable health care. And I do think that we need to change how we pay our healthcare workers. And for instance, home health care should be the hottest thing around. And I don't understand why hospitals don't support that more. And I think probably because they have facilities to maintain, and that's where their money is. And if you start taking care at home, you're not going there. And I do think it's kind of upside down what some of the wages are in that area. And you're going to find, because like right now it is a known fact, they called it a friend of mine, Erica, that owns a home healthcare company, she called it the silver tsunami. And what she's saying is what's going to happen is there's going to be so many people coming up in that Gen X and everything area that is going to need that extra health care, and there are not enough facilities to be able to take care of them. So when that happens, we're going to be in trouble. And so what's the home health care system look like? Are people looking at that? Are our leaders looking at that? Is someone tasked with that? Who's just saying something to say something, and who actually has a background in what they're actually going to be bringing up to people to vote on or approve or introduce some kind of bill or something to enact? And that just takes me back to me trying to find out from the listeners out there, how are you ranking these issues? Because this is what we live by every day, and that is what we need to take to task. That's where we can make a difference immediately, is looking at those voting histories and looking at the local candidates to the state candidates, and what are they doing, and what's been the process in the past for that. So I really do want to hear what you have to say about that. I do think that different generations feel differently about it. And, obviously my opinion's strong just from what I've been through, but you may be out there and have a completely different opinion. And I welcome that. Call in, tell me why you disagree with it, why you think that it should be different than that. Or if there's another type of topic other than immigration, healthcare, crime, technology, whatever it might be for you. But we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, dive in a little bit more. Hope to hear more from all of you out there. I appreciate you listening, and you are listening, though, to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Mother Nature's fury making itself present in several parts of the country. And Clarksville authorities, they've been dealing with a possible explosive device this morning. We'll have the latest on that. That's all coming up at 1 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I am filling in for Matt today. If you want to hear Matt, he will be on at 3 o'clock today. I'm Jennifer Sheets, and I've been reaching out to everybody trying to find out kind of what you all are thinking about the issues. Like, we want to rank them because here we're in an election year, and I just kind of wanted to bring up the point that we need to kind of pare it down a little bit and think about who we're putting in office locally and what are the issues that are most important to us that we actually can affect immediately. Have an immediate impact on by what we do voting. And I was just kind of sharing how I have an 18-year-old who's registered to vote now and what issues were important to me. And I really welcome anybody bringing anything. I know that someone had actually texted and said that education was top of their list. I think in the state of Tennessee, there was a new study that came out that had us like ranked 36 in the nation when it came to education in public schools. So I know that that's going to be a hot button issue for people to be voting on. And, you know, I know that when you're looking at like whether or not you have Biden or Trump in, where you want to land on the education platform of school choice and that. But I do think that there's so much that needs to come back down to the state level to make decisions so that it's based upon the constituents that are actually in that state and the trends that are followed and where they allocate their dollars, you know, the tax dollars that you pay. And I just think it's time to start ranking it, everybody. I think you need to make your own list. What's important to you? And it may be just cut and dry. Like I mentioned, there was a caller in with Chris Hand that said, no matter what, hands down, she's voting for the one that she wants to close that border up and deport and immigration. That's number one to her. And I respect that. I understand that. But I also know that after November, we're stuck with what we're stuck with one way or the other. So it's important to kind of talk about everything as a whole so that we have some great quality of life coming up in the next 4 years. So anyway, we got to go back over to news. This is top of the hour. And when we come back to the Matt Murphy Show, we're going to dive into some more really amazing topics. So we'll see you on the other side.
Good afternoon. It's exactly 1 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got scattered clouds, 86 degrees. A full weather forecast is on the way in a couple of minutes. 2 wildfires in southern New Mexico have caused local residents to evacuate their homes. Flames have been raging there. Here's Alex Stone.
Flames and thick smoke moved into the town of Rio Doso like a monster arriving. 83-year-old Frank Loya says he knew this time was different and they had to go. He could feel his body's fear response when he saw the wall of flames.
We have been through several fires in the 19 years we've been there. None of them was fierce like this one.
He and his wife don't know if they have a home anymore. They're waiting for news in a Red Cross shelter.
Down on the Texas Gulf Coast, it's a different story. Tropical storm Alberto has formed in the Gulf of Mexico. It's the first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. Alberto bringing gusty winds and heavy rain to South Texas and hammering the coast with storm surge. ABC's Melissa Adon, she reports from Corpus Christi.
Along the south coast of Texas, a lot of folks are anticipating all of this rain and so much of that storm surge. Officials have closed down schools. This is during Juneteenth. Of course, other businesses closed down, anticipating them to also be shuttered tomorrow because of this threat of floods.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department's bomb squad, they were called out to investigate a possible explosive device that was found in a car at a Clarksville scrapyard. Channel 4 now reporting that the area has now been deemed safe and Avalon Street between Fort Campbell Boulevard and Sevier Street should be reopened shortly. In fact, it may already be open. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
And welcome into the second hour of the Matt Murphy Show here on this happy Juneteenth. And I am filling in for Matt today. You can catch him at 3 o'clock on The Drive. And my name is Jennifer Sheets. I host a show on the weekend called Master the Workforce. And I think it's my third time filling in for Matt. And happy to be here. I love this audience. They've been always so kind and welcoming to me as I step into shoes that I cannot fill because Matt's incredible. But hope to kind of give a little different take on some things and follow up with some hot topics y'all are interested in, which speaking of, I don't know about the rest of you, but you know how you get all that spam email and everything? The political emails are insane coming into my box. And I noticed, for whatever reason, I don't even know how this came about. I started getting all these emails in from the Democratic Party. And instead of blocking them, I'm like, I want to know what they're saying. What are they emailing everybody? And I have to share some of these with you because they're wild. And if for those of you that are watching online, I could show you some of these because they're really kind of funny. But they're almost in a desperation mode. So I've noticed the tone in the emails have gotten stronger and stronger. So they'll have I call it a clickbait, but it comes into your email. And in the subject line, it say, it's almost too late. We need you now. Why aren't you doing this? I mean, these are crazy subject lines that are in there. And then, so they've been sending this one particular one out quite often. And it's saying, Biden, Trump is the question mark. And it's in the subject line that says, we've asked you who you'll support in November. We've asked your party status, but today we're asking you to tell us who you believe has served our nation best during their first term. So please tell us. And then it said, as of June 18th, 2024, who do you believe had a better first term? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? And then it says Team President Biden and Donald Trump have had two vastly different presidencies. So it goes on and has this little kind of clip art is what I would call it for everybody out there to describe it in radio land. The economy, which shows it was bad under Trump and it was good under Biden. It's a little clip art thing. And then it says Biden fostered the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years while creating 15.6 million jobs. And then it said Trump ended his presidency with an economy that had 2.9 million fewer jobs than when his term began. So right now, so think about this. If I'm someone that's not educating myself on what's going on and I want to listen to what someone's saying and not have the other side of the story, this is what they're mass emailing. And, I think that this has been addressed on Dan's show, on Dan Manda's show, Chris Hand, obviously Matt's talked about it, is, the press secretary bringing up little excerpts of what she's kind of spinning of the videos that are out there that portray, it's not portray, it's really showing Biden do actual things that people are commenting on. And then she just kind of spins it off in another direction. And this is what's really happened in these emails is because it leaves out all of the other details that happen with this. And it also leaves out when you leave office, right? There are all kinds of legislature bills, all kinds of things that have been left in place by the previous administration. So when you're coming in, you're just having to carry on what's there until you can make all your changes. So lots of times what they'll do is they'll spin that at the beginning of someone's presidency as well as at the end of it to make it seem for the other side, right? So this goes on, by the way, this particular email, it talks about that Trump wanted to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act and propose changes to cap limit, and how they want to perceive that it was better from Biden was capped insulin prices for $35 for seniors and millions more Americans. So they're talking about that. I want to just specifically say I was probably the wrong person to send something about the Affordable Care Act. Giving people jobs and having a business, I knew initially that the Affordable Care Act was just glorified wellness care. I was trying to tell people that I have had so many employees, they opt for my regular insurance. They do not opt for the Affordable Care Act. And what's crazy is that the companies get penalized if we're not offering it or if there's a missing signature on it. And really, it's almost like someone's winning an election on a false notion. That's how I look at it. I mean, I thought at the time, why are they talking about this is supposed to be great healthcare for people? It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's terrible. And now you've made more bureaucracy. There's also more taxes to companies regarding it. Now, it was even hurting individuals, in as far as if they didn't accept it or they accepted the healthcare. So it's interesting, these emails I'm getting, and they're getting more aggressive. They're getting like very aggressive. The titles of them are wild. And, I'm looking at where they're coming from. So this last one that came from, it said it's paid for by the Democratic Governors Association. That was that one. Then I got another one from the Tennessee Democratic Party. And this one was talking about, help us make Andy Ogles a one-term congressman. So then they go into his record and they start talking about his record. But all of these emails, I want to say to you, at the bottom have where you click and you donate money. Every one of them. Like up to, it says chip in $10 now, chip in $50 now, chip in $250, another amount, like all of them do. And so I started kind of wondering, like, okay, how much, do we know about where they're getting this money from, what they're doing with the money, which we've all made speculation of what they do with the money that's out there. But there is actually a report that came out that talks about the presidential race and kind of like where the money is being raised at. And it's very, very interesting because of the money that's been raised. And I'm looking at the C here. This is actually from CNN. This is what made me laugh. This is actually from CNN. And I don't even know. I think that they couldn't post this without actually being real. I mean, because you normally everything's skewed from them anyway. But on Donald Trump, it said that what he raised was 9.4 million, and that he spent 6.5 million. Okay. But then when it said Joe Biden, it said that he spent 25.2 million and raised 24.2 million. And then it talks about cash that they've spent already, which it had Donald Trump at 49.1 million and Biden at 84.5. So it's interesting they call it the money race. Like, where is that at? So are they spending money? Because I know it's expensive. Like if you're going to do like sales or business development now, like you have digital marketing or whatnot, it's expensive to have that and goes like spamming and sending emails out to everybody all the time. It's costly. And so I'm like, is this where all their money's going? I don't know. But I'm loving to hear what you guys all have to say about this, all of these topics. So I'm going to go to Michael in the borough. Hey, Michael, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Hey, look, I've got something to tell you about something. I'm sure there's others that's got this problem. I only have Social Security coming in. Luckily, I had a good job all those years, and it was with two different companies that fits, and each one got sold out. And, of course, you got to take your 401k out each time because, hey, we're not doing it anymore. So time they take your penalty for early withdrawal. And the end of the year, they tax it for extra income. What you got? About enough for a house note. Not enough to really put into any kind of more savings, unless you got a good financial advisor.
And I believe that, Michael. That's a huge issue, isn't it? Because here's the money you work so hard for and you save, and then you're getting taxed on it again. And you need it.
I know. And my deal here is what you're talking about, insurance. Okay, I'm on Social Security only. My wife is not old enough yet for any Medicare or anything. And we have to go through the marketplace in order to afford insurance for her. Okay, you can get Cigna through the marketplace, but it's not the Cigna that everybody takes.
1,000% right.
Yeah, because we love our doctor. We love our doctor. But now the main thing we get paying insurance rates on through this Cigna is for her medicines. So they do help her medicines. But we can't find a doctor that takes it. Or are they not taking new patients or this or that or the other? So here you are. I guess it's Obamacare. I don't know what the heck it is through the marketplace. But it sucks.
You're right.
It's Cigna, but woohoo! It's some kind of foreign Cigna. I don't know what it is.
Let me ask you a quick question, Michael. Do you think that one of the things that hurts as you get into that space is that you can't pick and choose the care that you need? That's what it's holding you back from, isn't it? That's one of the biggest things. Like you said, it can help with medication, but whether or not you could have better care and not need that medication or a different care plan, you can't make that choice based on this insurance, right?
No, she can't. She's limited, and she needs a GP, but we can't find one. And they take every Cigna at this place we go. She was going. They take every Cigna there is, but that one, Cigna Connect is its name. they take Health Springs and whatever other Cignas are.
Sure.
But not Cigna Connect through the marketplace. And they said the reason they can't take it is Cigna has to invite them to become part of their network. Well, they're already taking 2 Cignas now. I've asked them. They said, we've tried, and they just will not send us an invitation. And I'm sure there's lots of people caught in this mess. And I guess I should have kept trying with some company that wasn't going to get sold out and I'd have benefits now.
Oh, Michael, I feel for you because, first of all, thank you for calling. And anybody out there that thinks they can help Michael, call in the show, because if there's somewhere else he needs to look for that maybe he can have some options, we want to hear about it. But Michael, thanks again for joining the show. I appreciate it. Love hearing you take.
Hey, you hadn't done it enough. Matt Murphy's on, filling in for Brian.
That's right.
They haven't missed him today.
That's right. You know it, and I need to do a better job of that, Michael, so thank you for calling me on the carpet on that one. Yes. I was trying to do it at our breaks, but absolutely, if you want to hear Matt, he'll be on at 3 o'clock today filling in for Brian Wilson. But that is an issue right now, what's going on with healthcare. It's marked. So anything that either gets subsidized more or whatnot is not treated the same as the other. I'm dealing with this with my mom right now with her insurance, and when people actually get you in and when they don't get you in, and it's just a vicious cycle. And again, going back to talking about in the political realm about campaign and campaign dollars and people bombarding the inbox full of this spammy mail about trying to get you to donate, and talking about what's important to you and issues and where our leaders lie on those issues. We've had some real conversations in the last, hour and 15 minutes from people talking about what they're experiencing and what's happening to them. And this is why I was saying that you have to pay attention on that local level all the way up, because of whatever is going on is always going to affect you probably more on a day-to-day basis than the other. But I appreciate him weighing in on that. But yeah, I think that the money grab here is absolutely huge. And, I can tell you too that all of these politicians are tied in with a lot of the times with the insurance companies, and who's lobbying for what and what kind of care that you're getting. We had at one point, Vanderbilt, that was the children's hospital my son was at when he had all his cancer treatments. Blue Cross Blue Shield, they took care of him until it was time for his transplant. So he had his transplant at Seattle Children's Hospital. And once that was done, they dropped us. They stopped, Blue Cross Blue Shield stopped private insurance in Rutherford County. So some of the things that, even though Michael was talking about what he was experiencing with Cigna, we were experiencing on our end. So, I think there's a lot more people that are having those dilemmas, and it's something we need to talk about. Absolutely need to talk about. But follow the money, everybody. Look at what's going on. And if you are donating to the Democratic Party, which I probably think most of our listening audience does not, but this is what your money's going to, is sending random people these emails with all of these kind of threatening, pay now, do this now, and then skewed thoughts of what is actually the voting history of the candidates that are out there and what they're actually voting on. And again, this goes back to, I even have something fun when we come back we got to take a break in a minute here, but when we come back, I went through CNN and Fox, and I was writing down the headlines from both of them on the same issues, and they're so, you all know, this audience is genius. Matt Murphy's audience is so smart. You know this. They're vastly, wildly different. But we can gripe about it all we want, but how do you take that back to a younger generation you're educating, and people that you can't reach, or people that are just, falling into listening to that and doing whatever they're saying and not seeing the bigger picture? Because that's the social media weaponization that we have now. And that's a big deal. And that's what, the Democrats and the Republicans both use social media to get their messages out. It's huge. It's the whole MAGA started from social media. So it is quite a big, an issue that we all need to take in consideration and educate ourselves on how we kind of talk to others about it. But when we come back, I want to dig a little bit deeper into that and see where you guys land. I want to hear from the Matt Murphy audience that's out there. And we're going to take a break real quick. And on the other side, we'll dive into it a little bit deeper. So you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Republican National Convention coming to Milwaukee in a few weeks. What will Donald Trump's plans be for the convention? And a baseball legend has passed away. We'll have those stories at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And welcome back to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt will be here at the 3 o'clock hour filling in for Brian Wilson. I'm Jennifer Sheets filling in for Matt Murphy. And so we've been talking a little bit about everything in the last hour, but mainly kind of just diving into, what are the political parties doing to garner votes and kind of what's happening on the Democratic side. And I was just saying I didn't block the Democratic Party's emails because I just thought they were kind of comical and interesting because I couldn't believe the tone in which they use. It's like almost like a scare tactic what they say, and like if you aren't really paying attention to what's in the subject line, you're like, what is this? And you click on it, and then always at the end there's always the skewed statistics like we all normally see, and then at the end it has where you can donate. You just hit the button and you donate. And, the other thing I was talking about before we took the break was how the headlines are so vastly different, which we all know between CNN and Fox and how skewed they are. But my concern is, we all vent and talk about it on all of our shows all the time. But like what happens to some of the more impressionable minds, that all that stuff going behind in social media and things like that. And what's really crazy is like the Democrats, they use these scare tactics in everything that they do. And, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but that there's a scare tactic that they're using regarding Trump throwing him in camps if he gets elected. I think it was like Joy Behar, Rachel Maddow, Christy Teigen. Everyone, they're afraid that they're going to reap what they have seen. I mean, this is where I'm talking about. We've gone way outside the realm of reality here. I hope that and pray that people are not always swayed by the celebrity of people saying that. But, one of the things I want to talk about after the bottom of the hour has to do with the politics and social media and what's being hijacked in that and the hidden stuff, because Netflix has a huge docuseries and documentary section, and I'm always kind of really interested in that. And I don't know how many other people are, but I'm like, I want to learn more about this and that. And sometimes it's really historic or a biography, or sometimes it's about an issue. So I've watched my fair share of documentaries on Netflix, and I am telling you right now that if you sat down and watched some of these, and they're very specific, so I want to talk about it after we come back from the bottom of the hour. Very specific ones. If you listen to them, they are totally like driven on the left side. And they put things in fact as the same kind of skewed version of what we're talking about, from me getting in the emails to the headlines that we see between, Fox and CNN. And it's just an absolute mind-blowing thing to me, because my kids sometimes watch these documentaries with me. And I was thinking, if they're watching this, or, your kids are home on summer break, whatever they're doing, and they're watching this and there's no one around to tell them it's any different. I mean, kids are scrollers. Kids are looking, what's interesting, and then they're on to the next thing. How much of that's being actually absorbed, and what do we know about that? Like, what are we stepping in to know about that? And the fact that I think of like a documentary as it's an educational thing. I know that in a lot of the schools, they'll show a documentary, of course, as a interesting way to teach kids how to learn about some either person or an issue or maybe an event that happened in history. But if you listen to this, and like one of them in particular that I want to talk about, like literally does nothing short of blame the Republican Party and Republicans for every bad thing that's ever happened. And they list it as like a fact. And so by the time you're done listening to this documentary, which was not even, you wouldn't even think would skew you that way or even bring you down that road, my mind was just blown. I just sat there with like my jaw dropped open. And then I thought, well, maybe it was just the person that wrote this, directed it, whatever. And then I start watching another one. And it's the same thing. And they're not all like that. There are some that there's not so much you can do with that. Like if they're going to talk about the Ted Bundy files, okay, that's about the Ted Bundy files. But then again, it does make me wonder of what fact I'm getting out of that docuseries or documentary. How much of that is rhetoric? and how much of it is opinion and really not based in fact, and how much is the narrative of what's being put out there. And so since Netflix is like the most popular streaming platform, and so many of our children and family members sit down and watch Netflix, I think it's important that there's this other side of it, and there's something going on behind the scenes that is trying to sway the minds that are there. And it's just one of those other new things we got to take in consideration and worry about and monitor and make sure that taking into the election again, that we are behind the right candidates, that we're behind the ones that are actually going to stand up for what we believe in and implement the legislation and stuff that we need to be abiding by, that will push us forward, not behind, in this great country of ours. So we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to go take a break for news. But when we come back to the Matt Murphy Show, we'll dive straight into this topic. So again, we'll see you on the other side.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got mostly cloudy conditions, 87 degrees on Music Row. A full forecast is on the way. It's becoming a will he stay or will he go? Now, former President Donald Trump says he will stay in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention after denying reports he once called it a horrible city. Here's ABC's Perry Russum.
Change of plans for former President Trump. Now his team says he will be staying in Milwaukee for the RNC in a few weeks.
I was the one that picked Milwaukee, I have to tell you.
Wisconsin will be a key state in November, one of the reasons it was picked to host the RNC.
I love Milwaukee. I said, you got to fix the crime. We all know that.
According to Milwaukee police, since 2022, homicides are down 40%. Non-fatal shootings are down 36%. Carjackings are up 31%.
Sadly, the death of a true baseball legend. Willie Mays once said he had a love affair with baseball. The Say Hey Kid was celebrated in music and movies, but it was on the diamond where he made his home for 22 years. Mays died Tuesday in California of heart failure. He was 93. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
In 1952, he was drafted into the Korean War, serving 2 years. And when he returned, he would thrill fans with an MVP season capped with the catch, Mays making one of the most memorable plays of all time. The Giants would win the World Series.
Every time I went on the field, I enjoyed what I was doing. I gave everything I had.
They eventually moved to San Francisco, but years later, Mays returned to New York, finishing his career with the Mets.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
And you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 1:37 on Juneteenth, and I welcome all of you in to hear what we're talking about today. Was a little bit of everything, just kind of diving into this election and where we stand on all the social issues, and from we've talked about political donating to technology and what we should be aware of and all of the things. But I've had a very patient caller on the line. I have Steve from Murfreesboro. Steve, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Hey, how's it going? One of the things that the left always does better than the right is the left uses the language to define the argument. And another thing the left always does is they go in masses and they'll review a movie, review, a business or whatever, and try to make effects that way. So it sounds like, we need to bind together and go in and review these movies as indocumentaries, not documentaries.
Oh, I love that, Steve.
Yeah, and so, the left is kind of driven by, cite your sources, where's your, whatever. And if all of a sudden a movie starts getting a ton of one-star, reviews on Netflix and being called out for being an indocumentary, and, the left slant and said, how can you, parents make sure that, your young, impressionable kids aren't watching this thinking that it's factual, then I think that's really our best weapon against this kind of basically propaganda.
I think that was a beautiful take, Steve, because you're right. It's scary, and we have to do a better job of that. And thanks for calling the show. I appreciate it so much. And like I said, it was an excellent take on that. And he was talking about this and why we have to be careful of it. This is really, really interesting. I was just looking this up. So I want to know, I think now, especially after watching the documentaries, that Netflix is kind of a Democratic-leaning major tech company, right? So get this, in the 2020 election cycle, okay, Netflix employees gave over $10.7 million, with over 99% of individual contributions going to Democrats. Okay, and it said, according to a CNBC report, Netflix was the most Democratic-leaning major tech company in the United States. So this goes right back to what I was saying, that, this is a big deal. What's happening is it's secrecy, I guess you could say. It's kind of hidden between the sheets there, I guess. Hey, Belle, I got a question for you, if you don't mind. I want to bring in a little bit on this conversation.
Yeah.
Are you a documentarist, I guess you could say? Do you watch documentaries at all?
Yeah, depending on the subject.
Yeah, and have you watched any that have been on Netflix?
I don't have Netflix.
Well, that'll answer my question. So when you watch them, the ones that you do take part in that, do you feel like there's a sway one way, or do you think it's pretty factual about everything that's going on?
No, there's always a sway depending on who's directing it.
And so what do you think about the fact of the kids and the Netflix and what's behind that? And it's a progressively, like when it said 99% of individual contributions are going to Democrats, do you think it's just more, we need to be educating the younger generation listening to it, and we need to understand what's going on? Or do you think it's...
Well, it's like, Churchill said, if you're, in your 20s and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're in your 40s and you're not a conservative, you have no brain. So that, kids are always much more prone to be willing to use other people's money to make themselves happy.
Oh, true.
So I don't look at that as anything abnormal. I mean, that's been going on for, decades and decades. So
I appreciate that.
For them to behave like that doesn't necessarily surprise me. And I think eventually, if you're smart and you pay attention to the world around you, you kind of grow out of it.
Yes, I appreciate your take on that too.
I mean, government's only going to let you down so many times before you finally go, well, maybe this isn't working.
I think we're kind of all there. It's kind of like what I talked about at the top of the first hour, going to the Rock the Country concert. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a gigantic Trump rally, and in this movement that's going on because people are just sick of things. They're just sick of how it is. And, we are all tired of being pigeonholed into our take on something, meaning if I feel a certain way about, let's say, abortion rights, and it doesn't fall into the way that maybe a conservative or a liberal might think, then I'm automatically that whole thing or the whole of the other. And that's not a fair statement to make. What I found as I've gotten older is that my views are very I guess what affect me the most, what's the most important thing to me. And I've never been taught to be like down one side of a political spectrum. I'm supposed to look at like what the issues are and what affect me. And so I'm going to go to Kevin here in Nashville. Hey, Kevin, thanks for calling the Matt Murphy Show.
How you doing, Jennifer?
Good, thanks.
I think we got a kind of a long uphill battle with this, changing kids' minds. Some of it depends on what they're getting at home. Actually, a lot of it depends on what they're getting at home. And with my kids, I used to have to give them things to push back against their teachers, especially when they're in high school. Especially at the high school and college level, to push back, but not to be obnoxious, but challenge the thinking and challenge the worldview, and just don't accept what they tell you. But the other thing is, when they've got your kids for 6 hours, 7 hours a day, for 5 days a week, you got a big slog ahead of you, because you got to be instilling these things kind of early, and you got to live it out as much as you can. And I always like to point to Ocasio-Cortez, because at her age, she has been thoroughly soaked in socialist policies from the time she was probably about 5 or 6 years old on through college, and that's just how she thinks. She is totally gone. And she probably will not change. She is roots bear fruit. She's the fruit that has been done, that is shown. And if you think back, and I know I said this before, there was a KGB defector named Yuri Bezmenov back in the 80s. He told us what they were going to do, and he told us what they were going to come through the school system. He told every intelligence agency in this country, but unfortunately they were already infected. And then he even wrote a book about it called Love Letter to America. And he told us they were going to come through the school system. The school systems are totally, totally socialist, and that's what they teach. So these kids are getting it from the time they're 4 or 5 years old on through if they go to college, and this is what they're getting. And they don't see anything different in the mindset, and they think this way. So and then you throw in programming from Netflix, Hulu, or whoever it is, you throw it in there, and they try to package it that it sounds nice and you're nice and compassionate, but the flip side is it harms them, but it harms other people too. And like I said, you got a long uphill fight with this thing.
Well, I appreciate you chiming in on that, Kevin. And you're right, unfortunately. Thank you for calling into the Matt Murphy Show. And by the way, if you want to pick up Matt Murphy, he will be on at 3 o'clock on The Drive, filling in for Brian Wilson. Yeah, Kevin's right, because this is really deep. This is so far, and I had mentioned this in one of the earlier segments about how my grandpa had said that the country would be taken from within. And this is the stuff that we are like, it's the smoke and mirrors. Like, don't look over here while I'm doing this on the other side. And so it's important that we understand, like, it's kind of why my theme a little bit today was like how we got to dive into at the lowest level, the beginning level, and teaching our young kids what to be looking out for so that they're not so impressionable and they can make up the mind for themselves. So we're going to go to Jerry in Kingston Springs. Hey, Jerry, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Hello?
Hi, Jerry. Welcome into the Matt Murphy Show.
How you doing? I wasn't ready. You got to me fast.
Hey, that's okay. I'm like, this is a great subject to talk about. I want to hear what you think.
Well, the last caller is 100% spot on. I just expand on that. I have a solution because a lot of people understand the problems that we're facing in this country with the newer generations coming up versus, say, the D-Day generation, or even the boomers or the Xers or whatever. We got a big gap now. And my solution is simply this, two things, really. I work with the Amish a lot. I do a lot of work for people like that in groups similar to them, communes or whatnot, that are almost identical, Mennonites and some other ones. And let me tell you something, their kids are unbelievably disciplined, smart, polite, respectful, everything. And I'm an outsider. They call us English if you're not Amish or Mennonite. And they even help me out. Like little kids, I'm talking about from like 4 years old up to like teenage. They learn fast, they're focused. There's no excuse why we can't, the regular civilian people who are not in those groups, do the same thing. It's just the parenting isn't being done properly and whatnot. So my solution is, first of all, we can't change what all parents do or don't do, or even if there are parents or whatever in the household. But when they get to teenage years, you bring back that 2-year mandatory draft. Okay, I'm sorry. If you don't agree with that, people out there listening, too bad. Everyone I know in my life who's military is disciplined and respectful, and I don't care how bad their parents were. They will undo that and fix those things that were wrong or not done in childhood in boot camp. And then you add the years that you have to serve, whatever, 2 or 4, however they want to do it. Other countries have mandatory 2-year, and they don't have the problems we have with the crime and the disrespect and the gangster culture and all this dumb nonsense that we're seeing, which is horrible. I mean, I see women, I'm not kidding you, younger than me, in their 20s and 30s. They're going out with ex-convicts who are psychopaths. They lock them down, they trap them, they abuse them, and I see they have to go to court, put them in jail, restraining order. That's crazy stuff, and that's where we are now, because they wouldn't know what to do with a good guy if he came up and bit them on the nose. Not all women, obviously, but a lot of these young girls.
Sure.
And it's sad. It's a sociopath, psychopath, narcissist culture we're bringing up with these last 2 generations, and that's not going to be easy to undo. Those people tend to not be able to get therapy, and you can't really fix a sociopath. You can just deal with them. But the military will strip them down to the bare basics and rebuild them into good citizens. And, of course, bringing God back would go a long way, too.
I appreciate that, Jerry. I appreciate you weighing in on that. Thank you so much. And, Jerry brings up a point about where we are as a family unit and how we're bringing up kids. And I have the utmost respect for the military. My dad was a Vietnam vet. And I like military is huge. And I understand exactly where he's coming from with that. And I think with me, like I have 2 teenagers. I have a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old. And I think it's so difficult now, I think, as a parent, for all the parents out there, and want to weigh in on this too, because on one hand, if you keep kids away from some of this, right? Like I was talking about here, how just underlying things in a Netflix series, and we see that most of the 99% of the employees donate to the Democratic Party. So it doesn't now surprise me at all that things are kind of swayed the way that they are. And maybe you can make an argument on the other side for shows that are Republican. I just don't think there's a lot of those out there. But I mean, parents are out there. If you keep the kids away from all of that, and you shield them from all of it, eventually it's going to come into play. And it's almost like you have to arm them with enough information, enough knowledge to protect themselves and make good decisions. And, we've gotten away from that, and it's been easy. I will admit, guilty of this, go to a restaurant when my kids were little, and, hand them an iPad or something because, they're getting restless and just wanted to have a conversation. And I realize, I look around how many people do that. And I know this kind of gets into a whole nother, issue that we definitely need to talk about, because it's completely tied into Democrat, Republican, election, constituents, all of it. It all comes together into one package. So appreciate the calls, by the way, today. Love hearing from the Matt Murphy audience. And we're going to take a break, and we'll talk to you back in a little bit. And you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Mother Nature continuing to make its presence known all across the country, from heat waves to power outages, tropical storms. We'll have all that for you at 2 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And we are glad you are listening to the Matt Murphy Show today. I am filling in for Matt. I'm Jennifer Sheets, and you got to listen to him because he will be on at 3 o'clock filling in for Brian Wilson. I just saw him a minute ago knocking on the window and saying hi. So he is here in studio for those of you awaiting his arrival. But we've been talking about a little bit of everything, and I just had a friend of mine send me a quick message, and it just got me thinking, because we were talking about the youth and Netflix and the underlying political views and everything, and I think about kids, right? And I like the population control, and we're talking about how I think that it was like 4.7 million undocumented immigrants in this country right now, right? And, I know that China and India are threatened by water shortages right now. And I'm wondering, are we going to suffer like that same fate due to the flood of immigrants? And how is population control coming into all this? Because at what point do we start worrying about that, like domestically and globally? And it is a touchy subject. I have not really, I've thought about it. And someone kind of posed a question to me about my thoughts on it. And, the thing of it is the world population is expected to keep growing, despite the declining fertility rates, but it's, growing at a slower rate. But what's going to be the tipping point? Like, at what point does the U.S. reach that tipping point where unskilled immigrants are crossing the border, most not paying taxes, but using our resources? And when do we need to worry about, like, a fresh water becoming a scarce resource or something, and not the too distant future? And then there's going to be an issue to whoever's here. Like, so if Trump gets in, how does he deport millions of illegal immigrants ethically? What do you do about that? And I mean, everything is beginning to get into something else. It's going to take a president that many people will perceive as a monster to make the tough decisions like this. And we're at the point of self-preservation, or we will lose the cohesiveness that has made the United States the most powerful country in the world. And I'm hoping we have not passed in the abyss due to all of this. And I think that it's time in the last hour to kind of dive into some more topics related, some fun things, and just solve all the world's problems on the Matt Murphy Show. So I'm Jennifer Sheets, and we're going to hit the top of the hour, and join me in the last hour before Matt comes on at the 3 o'clock. And you are listening to Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It is 2 p.m. and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got mostly cloudy skies. We're at 89 degrees. Weather forecast is on the way. Some areas of the Northeast are expecting a potential heat index of 105 degrees or more throughout the week. Boston, they've declared a heat emergency through Thursday. Utility companies in New Hampshire said yesterday they don't expect any problems meeting power demands. William Hinkle is the electric utility provider, and he says that operations will be meeting those demands as best they can due to the heat.
They can use our switching technology to reroute power and help ease that demand in certain spots and the flow of electricity from other directions.
In the Southwest, 2 wildfires in southern New Mexico have caused local residents to leave their homes. Flames have been raging there. Here's Alex Stone with more.
Flames and thick smoke moved into the town of Rio Doso like a monster arriving. 83-year-old Frank Loya says he knew this time was different and they had to go. He could feel his body's fear response when he saw the wall of flames.
We have been through several fires in the 19 years we've been there. None of them was fierce like this one.
He and his wife don't know if they have a home anymore. They're waiting for news in a Red Cross shelter.
Tropical storm Alberto has formed in the Gulf of Mexico. It's the first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season that started on June 1st. Alberto bringing gusty winds and a lot of rain to South Texas, hammering the Gulf Coast with a storm surge. Here's ABC's Melissa Adon. She's in Corpus Christi.
Along the south coast of Texas, a lot of folks are anticipating all of this rain and so much of that storm surge. Officials have closed down schools. This is during Juneteenth. Of course, other businesses closed down, anticipating them to also be shuttered tomorrow because of this threat of floods.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
It is 2:05 in Music City, and you are listening to the Matt Murphy Show. And Matt will be joining us at 3 o'clock as he is filling in for Brian Wilson. And I am your host, filling in today, Jennifer Sheets, host a show on the weekend called Master the Workforce. And I cannot do a great job at filling Matt's shoes because they are unfillable. And by the way, every time I hear his music, Bell, I love it. I love his intro music. It's amazing. Kind of gets me pumped up, I guess.
Well, he came up with that on his own, but I'm going to take credit for it. So it was me.
Hey, it was amazing. And I've seen Matt's in the building, so waved hi to him. So he'll be on shortly. But thanks for letting me come in and welcome me in the audience here in my female voice today as we talk about all things that have to do politics, elections, social issues, and everything. And in the last hour here, I had some interesting ones, and I'm very intrigued to hear what the Matt Murphy audience thinks of these, because I know all of you find your Apple bill at some point where you have some kind of subscription on it that you don't know what it is. I mean, I know all of you have it, because every time I'm getting dinged with something, I'm like, was that my kids? Did they download an app? Did they, upgrade something in a game? And it's just become where this is so prominent that what you're seeing is, even if you go into the Apple platform, for those that are Apple users, there's actually a section just for cancel the subscription and that kind of thing. But where does the running of business and the capital, that we are in, like, the, how I say, a capitalistic society that we're in, interfere with one another and impede a business from growing, or if it should come in and regulate. And the FTC has had a couple hot button things that they've had their hands in lately. The most recent is their lawsuit that they filed against Adobe. And basically they filed it because it said that Adobe trapped customers into like a year-long subscriptions through like these hidden early termination fees, numerous like cancellation hurdles they had to go through. And that, the FTC comes out on this political stance of for the people that says Americans are tired. I'm quoting from the FTC Consumer Protection Director, Samuel Levine. He said, Americans are tired of companies hiding the ball during subscription sign up and then putting up roadblocks when they try to cancel. So this lawsuit that the FTC filed, it names two of the company's top executives. It names the vice president and it names the senior vice president. And then it just says, what would happen supposedly was it pressure people to keep their subscription service, and that it would be like one price when you signed up for it. And then if you missed that really early cancellation day, you get, involved in what you're doing, then the price went up and then now you're stuck in this subscription. And to me, I think this is a really interesting topic because there was a whole nother issue that came out with Costco recently that had to do with their subscriptions and their cards along the same line. And this was one where it said it was un-American because it's the Rage Over Shoppers membership card subscription policy warns that if it continues, they'll no longer shop at Costco, which had to do with letting other people of your family use your card when they're not the name on the card. But going back to the FTC and Adobe, I found a little soundbite about this. And Belle, I don't know if you'd be okay running that real quick, just kind of let everybody know what's going on with that.
I got to figure out which one of the five it is here.
There's so many. And by the way, what the FTC, when I said they have a couple big things going on, the other one that I want to talk about too has to do with the non-compete. And I know the deadline's coming up for that, for them to make a decision if they're going to stall that out and wait, or if they're going to make employers eliminate every single non-compete. And it seems like even on my show, I've been a guest on other shows. This is a topic that's coming up on a weekly basis. And I don't know, were you good? Okay, all right. Belle found it. So this is about Adobe and the lawsuit with the FTC. So the Creative Cloud subscription costs about $90 a month. I was looking it up on its monthly plan, $60 on the annual paid monthly plan. And then that's at the center of the suit, about $55 a month of paid annually up front. And that's kind of what's going on. So why is this important? Because subscriptions plans, what the government controls and doesn't control in a free market is imperative of us making decisions of who we're putting in office and why we're putting them there. I mean, right now, when you take the non-compete into consideration, that's a whole nother thing. Are you telling companies that they can't protect their proprietary information, what they've worked hard to build where they're at, and they give people, a position to work and an opportunity to grow? Or how does it feel as government step in and say, no, like they are with that, saying, no, we don't want people to be trapped by companies. They should be able to go work wherever they want to work at. They should be able to earn as much money as they want. You should not be holding them back. Just as I say, a company can open up a business on any corner. The person should be able to go to another business anytime that they want. And so we're really seeing this reach in with the FTC lately on different issues. And they're very social issues. And again, this kind of, steers me back to what we've been talking about this whole entire time about how do these things that we see every day and have exposure to every day, and when we're looking at the big picture, like I kind of wrapped up the last hour talking about the big deal with population control and immigration, because we keep coming back to that. That is like the center of every conversation every day on every show, because it's such a hot button and everybody weighs in on it all the time. And it should be. It's like to me, it's kind of like our national security, right? Are we protected at home? And can the way of life that we have to completely change tomorrow because, we let someone in this country that we didn't know was there? And I'm going to table that for a second because there's a point of what I'm making with that. And then you come around to where you have the normal everyday activities that we have. We're getting charged on our bills for things that we don't know are there or are they there. Should we have checked? Was it our job to check it? If we sign up for it, it's the fine print. I know that like if a bank makes an accidental deposit, it's not like the Monopoly game, where you get to keep it. They will come no matter how much money you have in your bank account. And when it's not convenient for you, and they will pull that back out if you didn't tell them that it was there in the first place. So I was kind of like the devil's in the details a little bit. It's kind of what I say. So when you look at that, you're like, the government's portraying this idea, the FTC is, that we're trying to protect consumers. We're trying to keep them from, having all these subscriptions and things that need to happen. And what's so weird about it is it does surprise me a little bit that the FTC is coming after them, because at Adobe, and we were talking about contributors, political campaign contributors. Democrats make up 93% of the people that work at Adobe, and the Democrats receive 99% of the employee money, just like at Netflix. So it does surprise me, considerably, I guess you could say, that they're going after them for that. But I think that we're in an election year. So this has been going on for a long time, and now all of a sudden they pick it up. And why are they just picking on Adobe? I mean, ask yourself that question. What's the person? I don't mean picking on, because they're not a victim in the sense of that. I'm saying, okay, what about all the other subscription services that we have? And then you find these wild, weird charges from, or you just order something one time. Have you all seen on Amazon that? Like if you're in a hurry, right, and you're in your Amazon cart and you go to get something and you see the price and it's like really low and you click it, and then you order it, and then all of a sudden it was subscribe and save. I don't know if any of you out there have seen that. And then the next thing you know, you're like, where did this come from? And all of a sudden you get dinged a couple times. And I think about it, to me, is mind-blowing about how much money a company can get even if you cancel that subscription, because 9 times out of 10, you've been dinged for it 1 to 2 to 3 times before you realize it. And that's a big deal. So I do think that, we talk about we don't want a lot of government overreach into our personal lives and how we run things day to day. We always want it to be on the level of, protecting our country, our military, those kind of things, protecting our secrets to keep us safe and everything. But I do think it's very, very political, where they choose to step into these social issues or the everyday things that happen to us, like I said, on a daily basis. And so I thought that was really intriguing that they were going after Adobe. And I know that the Costco issue has been huge because they've changed their principles on, and the whole idea of it obviously is to get more people to get a card to Costco and use it. And so it's made people irate at the same time. But, change always does that to people. Not always, but, we're a little afraid of it every now and again, I guess you could say. But then, that leads me back into my conversation, too, about the FTC with the non-competes, because this went the last time I filled in for Matt Murphy. This was a hot button. We had the phones lit up like crazy that day talking about this issue. And it was the FTC talking about the reach into the non-compete. And there was just really kind of a mixed group of response to that. We had probably more people saying that it was a good thing that they thought that FTC was going to get them out of the non-compete so they could go, work wherever they wanted. And for me, and I remember that day, our text line was working, and I remember that some people were trying to take me to task on that, saying, well, are you just sticking up for businesses? But my thing was again, coming back to the FTC again, is that if I'm trying to protect proprietary information and I'm trying to protect other people working in my company that have jobs to where if someone takes things from there and causes harm to my business to where I can't function anymore, or I have to let go of people or lay off people, that's dangerous. That's not right either. But I've been telling you that I haven't made my staff sign a non-compete in years. It's confidentiality agreements, and those and there's always what they call the tortious interference law, which is kind of blanketed everywhere, and that's important to remember because that if someone's going to leave, don't keep them from doing what they can actually do, what they can make money at. But at the same time, there's a way to protect your stuff. If they can't take your proprietary stuff, your bill rates, your markups, the way you do something, your process, the actual clients, your contacts, and use that against you to either underbid or change how that is to where you lose all your business. If that's all covered in a confidentiality agreement, you're good. You just don't need the other. I'm actually doing a webinar about this in a month, and I have a big law firm in town that's going to be speaking at that on that webinar. We're addressing this, but it kind of comes full circle back to the FTC again. And, here they come on a subscription lawsuit, and then they're talking about non-compete. So I don't know kind of where they're headed these days. But again, I did think it was interesting that Democrats mostly support Adobe. So I think there's something else with that too. But when you talk about, taxes and what's going on, I did find this very interesting. It was in the Tennessean, and they did this really good article. Diana Levia did this, and it was about which states pay the most in taxes over a lifetime. And I'm not like making an official change of subject here. There was a little method behind my madness with this. We talk about the political side of FTC. We talk about what they're doing with the lawsuits in Adobe and non-compete. We talk about subscription-based businesses and what happens in all the costs of that. And you think about we're kind of nickel and dimed everywhere. And then, can we go find a new job when we need to and all that stuff. So when it comes to taxes, my grandpa used to say the only two things in life that were sure were death and taxes, right? Which ones pay the most over a lifetime? So Tennessee came out with this, and so I bet you can guess, right? New Jersey pays the most taxes over a lifetime per person at $987,117, and then it goes into Washington D.C. and ends with Maryland. But the states that pay the least are Alaska, Wyoming, Delaware, and then Tennessee. It says that the average person pays $390,663 over a lifetime. So we're in the bottom of that. That's good. But I wanted to take a call here. We got Billy from Nashville calling in about confidentiality. Billy, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Good day. I was just wanting to speak about the confidentiality clause and also what you said about the non-compete. The confidentiality clause, I understand that, but non-compete, I've always heard it, and I've refused to ever sign one anywhere I've ever worked because nobody wants to give you anything for it. And I always heard that non-compete clauses, unless they give you something that will substantially make up what you won't be able to make, that it's not worth the paper it's written on. Is that true?
Absolutely true, Billy. I know there are some, and thanks for the call, by the way, Billy. I wanted to talk about it because I know we're going to be up against a break, but I wanted to grab that call from you, Billy, because here's the thing with the confidentiality agreement and the non-compete. The attorneys that I use are one of I think they're the number 2 employer law firm in the country. And they've told me that from the very, very beginning. There's always ways around it. That's why very few of them are enforceable unless there's something strangely written in or you just don't have the money to keep fighting it. I was always told you don't need it. You just need the confidentiality agreement to cover all of your proprietary information, other people's informations, your ways of process that keep your company going. And so that's another reason why I never did one. I just did the confidentiality agreement. But I know we've got Heather in Nashville we're going to get to after the break. She wanted to talk about Adobe. So Heather, hang tight with us. And I'm Jennifer Sheets, and you are listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
In Clarksville, that area that was dealing with a possible explosive device, well, it's all clear there now. We'll have the latest on that, and fans react to the passing of a baseball legend. We'll have those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And welcome to the Matt Murphy Show. Matt will be in at 3 o'clock today covering the drive for Brian Wilson. I'm Jennifer Sheets, and I'm filling in today. And I have had Heather patiently waiting online from Nashville to talk about the Adobe and the FTC filings and all that stuff, subscription. So, Heather, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Oh, thank you. So, yes, I had done a subscription for the Adobe Pro because I thought I needed it, but then I never really learned how to do it. Use what I needed, and I was just still using my old Adobe, and I tried to cancel what I was paying for that upgrade, and yes, I was trapped into, I could cancel it, but then I'd have to pay, basically you pay out the rest of the year. But then even worse, so I didn't cancel, I just let it sit, even though I'm not really using it. But then recently, when I was opening some PDFs, I kept getting this message that popped up that said, there was like some new, something that I had to agree to, new agreement that I had to agree to. And one of the things that I had to agree to was that Adobe could have access to the content in all of my PDFs that I was running through. And I called my computer and I'm like, do I have to say yes to this? I mean, why do they need access to the content in my PDFs? I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything, but it was none of their business. So, but the bottom line was basically, I had to click agree or I couldn't, continue to open my PDF. So, very, very frustrating.
Well, Heather, I appreciate you sharing that.
Did they want, are they trying to, find who's on the one side and who's on the other,
right?
Whatever. It's just very frustrating.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Heather. And I know what you mean about the Adobe pop-ups because I've had it where I don't use all the features that are in it. And then sometimes you're trying to get to it to use something or download something or make an edit to it because that's like a whole nother added feature you have to pay for to edit your PDF documents, that kind of thing. So I totally understand you. That's frustrating. And I appreciate, thank you for waiting, Heather. Thanks for sharing your story with us and being on the Matt Murphy Show. And I know we were also talking about border policy. We got into that before we were even talking about Adobe. And I just want to take another call real quick because I got John from Indiana. John, welcome to the Matt Murphy Show.
Hey, Jennifer, how are you? So nice to talk to you.
Oh, so nice to talk to you, John. Lay it on me. What you got to share with me? We want to hear.
Hey, I know you were talking about what kind of impact that this open border is going to have on us long term. And my thoughts were, well, how many of these people coming across the border are vaccinated? I'm not talking about this COVID shot. I'm talking about smallpox, measles, polio. I'm talking about that kind of stuff.
You are speaking the truth. It is a very frightening thing, isn't it? Because, there's been a lot of diseases that we had gotten rid of that now are showing up again. And, I agree with you.
Yeah, I know that myself. I'm pretty well vaccinated. I can't remember the last time that I had any kind of vaccinations. I won't get the COVID poke, but I'm talking about the younger kids, the ones that are coming up, the anti-vaxxers.
Right.
I don't know.
You bring up a brilliant point, John, and I appreciate you calling into the Matt Murphy Show. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for listening. And I mean, that is, oh my gosh, that is a soapbox I get on too. And vaccinations, I know that one just like fires people up. But, I sit two ways on vaccinations when it comes to that and people come in this country. I had a kid that had cancer 3 times. And I don't care if you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I will say it because it's my truth, my story, how it is. It's why we end up emphatically feeling one way or the other about an issue. And for those type of kids that are immunosuppressed or have, they're neutropenic, like they don't have all their white cells due to no fault of their own. When you have someone that maybe is healthy enough or carries something in that's not vaccinated and they take it to a family member who actually it brings it to that child, it will kill them. it will kill them. And I used to tell people all the time, I'm like, you think that you're just saying it to say, I just don't know what's in it or whatever. Okay, I get all of your arguments, but the bottom line is there are some people, there's a population in this country that of children specifically, that is life or death for when you don't vaccinate on those types of things. And that's what he was talking about. This is what the caller was talking about from Indiana, was he was saying, look, obviously it's very heated, even politically when it comes to the COVID vaccine, but, he's talking about bringing things in and letting people in not knowing that have they been vaccinated for other things that exist in other countries. So anyway, we are going to be going into the last half hour of the Matt Murphy Show. Matt's going to be joining us shortly, and we're going to wrap up everything in the show just a little bit with a nice pretty bow. So you're listening to Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got clouds, 87 degrees on Music Row. A forecast is on the way. In Clarksville, the police department there has deemed the area of Avalon Street between Fort Campbell Boulevard and Sevier Street safe after a possible explosive device was found in a car at a Clarksville scrapyard earlier today. No word yet on whether the device was an explosive or not. In a statement, the Clarksville Police Department said that the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office District 7 Bomb Squad conducted render-safe procedures and the device is no longer a threat. The statement went on to say this is still an ongoing investigation and no other information is available for release at this time. Again, the roads in that area that were closed have since reopened. And the world remembering a baseball icon, Willie Mays, passed away yesterday at the age of 93. Alex Stone, he reports on how fans are paying their respects.
At the Willie Mays statue outside of Oracle Park in downtown San Francisco, fans are leaving flowers, candles, notes, and even peanuts and beer in honor of the Giants' great. This man among those who stopped by to remember Mays.
Everything he did was just done with grace.
Tributes are pouring in from former baseball stars like Barry Bonds, who thanked Mays for being his godfather and said, "I love you forever."
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
And you're listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 2:37, broadcasting live from off of Music Road, downtown Nashville. Matt Murphy will be joining us live in just a few. He is going to be filling in on the drive for Brian Wilson. In the meantime, the voice you hear is me, Jennifer Sheets. I host a show on the weekend on Sundays from 11 to 12 called Master the Workforce. And speaking of that, I thought it would be great to kind of round out the last half hour of the show talking about where we're at with economy, jobs, and where the current administration and the Trump administration, Trump group, are like stand on that kind of what their history and their record is, because I'm submerged in that world on a daily basis. I have been in the job creation and professional matchmaking world for more than 24 and a half years and put like over 37,000 people to work in that amount of time. And in about every industry that there is. So this is like my wheelhouse. I am an advocate for both employees and employers equally for different reasons at different times. And I want to tell you that I get so angry when I'm listening to the media and politicians talk about the job market. Because I'm telling you right now that 90% of the time they are so vastly wrong, and they use it to get whatever accomplished that they think they're accomplishing to incite some kind of panic, either in the person that's looking for a job or the company that wants to maybe think about expand or downsize, right? And they're living off of that. For example, some of the statistics we get out are from the BLS, the Bureau of Labor of Statistics. And I've shared with people before, even on my show, here I am, and at times I've had over the years where I've had 600 people on my payroll at one time. Never once have I ever been sent a survey about what my dynamic of my workforce looks like and what I foresee happening in my workforce. And I would think that people in a kind of a staffing capacity would be the first person you'd ask, because we don't just apply to one industry. Most of us anyway. Most of us, have our hands in a diversified kind of client base so that we're always in the know of what makes the world go around, right? So I just don't get it. What's interesting is that there was a statement that came out from the U.S. Department of Labor. Washington put this out. It said that today the Bureau of Labor and Statistics have reported the American economy added 353,000 jobs in January. Now, this was a little bit ago, but wait to hear this part. It said, bringing the total jobs created under President Biden to 14.8 million. Okay, now just table that for a second. I don't know if you all realize this, but when President Trump was in office, okay, not only did the poverty rate hit an all-time low, but under the Trump administration, more Americans were employed than ever. Do you know how many that was? 160 million. And the unemployment rate fell to a 50-year low. And that the unemployment rates at that time for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Americans without high school diploma all hit record lows. The unemployment had hit record lows. And they called it the blue collar boom. There isn't anything else other than the Department of Labor or BLS coming out with stuff on the other side of it. And what I see is not what is being reported. I had, for example, I had a friend of mine reach out to me on Facebook who is in the nuclear field and had said that they had brought them all, like there was a group of 50 of them from 5 different states that brought them all on like a Zoom call or whatnot. And then at that particular time just said, we have to let you go. Technology's taken over and that's what's going to do your jobs from now on. Okay, and then not only that I saw an energies company in Middle Tennessee that had, oh my gosh, probably, I would say 200 unskilled workers that were pulling probably 60 to 80 hour weeks working, just in an energies, in like a renewable energies field. So it's something that is like growing. And come in and completely, like everybody that was in that unskilled part, got rid of all of them. And have put machinery in that's doing the place of what they're doing. So, how they always say, well, there's all of this is creating new jobs, new job creation. I think it said under Biden that he was saying it was going to be adding 791,000 manufacturing jobs. Oh, this was since that Biden took office. By the way, let's talk. We're getting to the end of 4 years. Added 791,000 manufacturing jobs. Okay, first of all, let me say he did not add those jobs. Companies that are smart and trying to scale and grow add those jobs. Okay, of which pay taxes for everything else to happen. That's number one. Number two, when they're adding these jobs, there's so many jobs going away. where's the other part of that? Where's the other part? Is it showing how many people are being replaced? Or we may have added this many jobs, but we didn't tell you how many people got laid off, because now we've grown into where we have more sophisticated equipment we're working on. Now, we have one thing that takes the job of like 40 people now. And so where you're killing off the workforce is in that unskilled level. And so if you're listening out there, the Matt Murphy audience, if you are listening out there, and I know you're a tremendous audience. Again, I go back to everyone has always been so welcoming when I filled in for Matt. I love Matt's show. I love how passionate he is about things. But if you're listening out there and you are one of those individuals that fit in that category, you should be really paying attention of who you're voting for and what they're going to do about it. Because this goes back to my scary conversation I had at the top of the 3 hours at noon today, talking about, Elon Musk speaking at the shareholders meeting about how the humanoid robots are coming and that they'll be 2 to 1. And within a year, it's the first prototypes are going to be out. And so when we talk about this, it's not going to get better, everybody. It's going to get worse. So what are we doing to control that so we don't have what's called the upside down? For all of my Stranger Things fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. And I mentioned this, I mentioned this a lot. So just as in fairness, as much as anybody that's on a show such as this, or even on a sports talk show or whatever, will have their points that are hot topics, you're going to bring them up. I mean, I would say you're not going to go the entire week without any of, with either like Dan or, Mandis or, Chris Hand or Matt Murphy or Brian Wilson talking about immigration at some point, or something stupid that Biden did, or the press secretary and all her uhs that she does when she's talking at the podium. You're going to keep hearing those things because they're in the news, they're important, and you have different people listening all the time. Well, I want to say this about this particular situation, is that if we don't look at controlled growth when it comes to technology, we're going to be in the upside down. And, and I hate using this word because it's a scary word, and I don't mean it in the way that people think, but I've said it, I wrote a book about it, the technology apocalypse. And what I mean by that is what's happening that's not being addressed. This is literally not being addressed by any of our candidates. I mean, I'm going to be fair on both sides. I want to hear what they have to say about it, because what's going to happen is, you had Elon Musk, Kevin O'Leary, a lot of them had spoke about this even after I had written my book about it, is that 575 million jobs are going to be automated in the next 5 to 7 years. And then everybody goes, well, this is making job creation. Yes, it is making job creation. Sure is. What kind of jobs and how many they are? If the whole idea of us getting technology to be faster and have AI work and have everybody, run with that, right, is to be able to run more efficiently with less, right? It means we have less overhead, less people working to do the, one thing doing the work of many, right? So if that's happening, first of all, the amount of jobs you're creating are going to be like on the head of a pin compared to the 575 million that are going to be looking for a job. And what are you going to do with that workforce? What are you going to do with them? I mean, if I'm a company and I'm trying to scale, I want to scale so people buy. I say this all the time, buy my products, goods, and services I'm scaling up to do. Who's buying them? Because if you upside down 575 million people in the next 5 to 7 years, what are they going to do? And where are they going to get their money to buy your stuff from? Where? So jobs is critical. I know that you guys are listening out there. Hear what I'm saying. The economy and jobs and what you hurt businesses with and what you help businesses with is politically motivated, has an agenda to it, and you need to pay attention to it. Because you need to have one, where you're having job creation, two, a bridge of that, meaning education is going to be king when it comes to transitional skills, schools, everything. Teaching our youth what jobs are actually going to be available in 20 years. This one drives me nuts. I've offered many times to say, hey, I'll go talk at a school. I'll bring 1 billion people I know in different industries to tell. What you're telling kids are going to be there in 20 years as a career field to go into is you're giving colleges all this money, or trade schools, those are probably the best ones. So, but you can give colleges all this money and their kids are going to have nowhere to go with it. They've wasted all that time because those jobs are going to be obsolete. And again, I've said this 1,000 times. So just as much as it's fair that we talk about immigration, because we know it is just a hot button. It angers me. I've seen it, as a business owner and having people apply for jobs. You know, you can have ICE walk in your door at any minute and check all the I-9s, but yet you have to go in the E-Verify system. And how that works is if you apply with me and I put you in the E-Verify system, even though it takes 3 days or so to find out if you're clear, sometimes they'll give back right away. But whatever that time frame is, it says I can't not put you to work, or that's discrimination. So I could be actually employing you when you're not really legal here. But then if I put you to work and then I put you at a company, let's say because of the industry I'm in, then I have to pull you off the job if it comes back that it's not compliant, right? And then I have to give you the opportunity to go get the proper documents, and then if you don't, then what happens then. So you're getting penalized all the time for things in this, and so it's just really important that everybody out there listen to what the stance is. It's bigger than that. It's what are you doing to help companies navigate this? What are you doing for transitional skills? How are you penalizing companies for things and costing all these taxes where they can't grow? Or you're also hindering the people looking for work to a point that you're encouraging them to go, oh, this job out looks great. This is great. And then they go get into an industry and learn something, and a year later it's non-existent. What are you doing about that? So, and again, goes back to we were talking about the Elon Musk thing and the AI and the oversight. We had some callers in talking about that as well, about there needs to be intelligence in that area. There needs to be government intelligence in the area, that whoever is in office come January has some kind of idea of what's happening with regulating that. I mean, because it's all programmed by human beings and can be hijacked. Cyber attacks, cybersecurity. We've had more cyber attacks and cybersecurity data breaches in the last year than we've had in the entire time that we've had technology. And you can look them all up. There's one recently that's really frightening with Ascension Medical Centers all over. And, I've noticed that sometimes the media kind of downplays some of that, depending on which outlet you're listening to. So do your homework, educate yourself on what's going on with the economy and jobs, because I do think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. But anyway, we're going to take a last break before the end of the show, before you get to hear Matt come on. And I appreciate you putting up with me today. And you are listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
And welcome back to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And no, I'm not Matt Murphy. I'm Jennifer Sheets, but Matt Murphy's in here with me.
That's my line. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Have you had fun today?
I've had a blast today. Your audience is so kind and welcoming to me. They know that you are the GOAT, but they listen to me anyway.
I'm a goat. That is true.
I try to do right by you and tell my perspective of things I get on my soapboxes on every now and again.
They have a little bit of what is it? Stockholm syndrome. They have a little bit of Stockholm syndrome going on. I lash them every day between noon and 3, and so when they have a kind, caring voice come in, they latch onto it. Please help us. We need help.
Way, are you kidding me? The first hour I got put to task. Hey, you're not mentioning enough that Matt Murphy is going to be on today and what time he's going to be on.
I demand of it because because I shift over to Brian's show when Brian's out, and Brian, will take a vacation here or there, and I take a vacation here or there. Well, people see me take my vacations, and then I'm gone when Brian takes his vacations, and so they think I have double vacations, and I don't have double vacations. I just have the same old vacations.
Someone on the super text line earlier said that you're the most absent man in radio.
Well, I'm here for 4 hours today. That's right. That's the battle.
Yeah, you're facing that no matter what. Okay, so we're at the end of the show. You're going to come in and you are going to make some waves. What do you get to bring today that we're talking about?
Oh, man, we got a lot of things going on. So there's a whistleblower out in Texas that's exposing the Texas Children's Hospital for things that they're doing against state law. I'm going to ask the question, is Vanderbilt doing the same thing? I don't know the answer to that question, but we need to explore the answer to this question.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of confusion about what is or what is not going on. And then in Louisiana, there's an interesting thing that came down today. The Louisiana governor was in our state for the Republican Statesman Dinner just like 4 days ago, in the middle of June. And he has now signed a piece of legislation requiring that the 10 Commandments be present in every classroom, in every public school in the state of Louisiana. And I'm going to ask the question in about 5 minutes. Do we need that for the state of Tennessee? If not, why not? If so, why so?
Love this. It's fantastic to get to sit and talk to you even for a few minutes. Glad I get to see you in person.
I love your shirt.
Thank you. Yes,
Schoolhouse
Rock. Gen Xers go. And thank you. Yes, it's best. Sing it. Hey, thanks everybody for listening today, being patient with me. I'm Jennifer Sheets. You can catch my show on Sundays from 11 to 12, Master the Workforce, and the Jennifer Sheets on all of social media platforms. And you're getting ready to hear the master, Matt Murphy. Thanks again for listening to the Matt Murphy Show here on Super Talk 99.7.